Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. We are going to be looking through accounting, how things get to the revenue export, and how you can balance where those numbers came from. We will be looking strictly at the accrual basis today, and I have shared my screen, and hopefully you can all see that. We will get started. So first of all, I'm going to run through 3 examples that will make up our revenue export today. And the first one I'm going to do a quick sale and just sell a pair of gloves. I've got these red gloves that I'm just going to sell one pair. You can see I do have a surcharge on that. I am also going to come back here and change my customer, so we know the gloves are going to have been sold to Olson Corporation. I'm going to come back here, complete my process. They're going to pay cash. Up here, it shows me that $5.24 is due. I'm just going to update that that's what they paid. And my cash drawer was not closed previously, but I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to say my drawer started at 100. Payment and order completed. It's starting a new order. So now we will have one order that was created for $5.24 sitting in our revenue export waiting for us. So then my next transaction, I want to go into a reservation. Someone had made a reservation previously. And on this reservation, I'm going to now just take a payment. So I have this open order, renting a castle. And today they're going to make a credit card payment. And my system is not set up with credit card integration, so it'll be as if I'm not integrated. And I'll take a $217.20 payment on this reservation. And I'm going to accept those terms. I'll sign it. And save it. And save that. So now we do have a credit card payment that is out there on an open transaction. The third example I'm going to set up, I'm going to close an order, and this order will just send to accounts receivable. So this one I'm going to just come in to return. And I'm going to just bypass that for now. Return using due date is already set to receive this morning at 9 a.m. My meter in, I'll change, and I'm not going to charge for fuel. And I am not going to collect a payment, so I wouldn't have had to come here, but that's just going to show our total of the $225.89 on this transaction. So I'm going to save that and complete that order. And now if I come to my back office and to my revenue export, I'm going to run it starting and ending today for my store 1 and generate. So here is my journal entry as it could be exported directly into QuickBooks Desktop, into QuickBooks Online, into Sage 50. And I do believe we do have a couple other not as common exports that we can do. But these totals, if you want to see what makes up those details, there is the details tab here that does break it out a little bit more. Excuse me, and like things you can see here, you've got damage waiver, merchandise sales, but it's still not completely broken out. I absolutely love the data dump. With this data dump, it gives you all the details of what happens on every transaction. And looking through this spreadsheet, I'm going to sort it by reference number. My order 5200, this was the one where I took a payment on Peyton's Playground. It was a Visa payment. It is a front counter deposit, open payment, front counter deposit, open deposit. It's going to debit, my cash in bank. It is going to credit my customer deposits. And here's the account numbers that go along with those two transactions. The next one, our order 5201, has more lines. This was the order for Magnuson Zoo, where we rented a bobcat. That posts, here's the actual rental item that was rented. It's a front counter rental that hits rental revenue, that's account 4001. 1457 hits my sales tax. 1802 is damage waiver, hits my damage waiver account. And then my 225.89 total is a front counter AR amount, and that hits my accounts receivable. And then the third entry that we did was the sale of the gloves that we had. And down here you see the $4.83 that we sold the gloves for. We had a surcharge on it. We collected $524 from the customer, and we had 34 cents in tax. The additional thing we have is that with the sale of these gloves, I am reducing my inventory by the cost of that item, and that does merchandise inventory and is hitting my asset account of inventory merchandise. And the offset to that is to my cost of goods account at the bottom. With this piece hitting your inventory account, that is optional if you want the system to do that. And I'll take that a step further in just a minute. Any questions on what we've covered so far?
Mitch has a question. Can this detail be posted to QuickBooks Online?
Yes, it can. Oh, not the detail. The detail won't go to QuickBooks Online. It will come over as just the totals you see here. But you have the supporting details within the revenue export, along with this data dump, can be exported to Excel. So I'm going to get out of there. Just you can export it to Excel or to a text or a CSV, other options.
We had a question coming here
Okay.
from Teresita. And again, you can either ask questions in the chat or you can unmute your microphone and ask to. Can you export to QuickBooks Desktop from the cloud?
Um,
They're hosted.
oh, from the hosted. I believe we have people doing that.
Yes, I believe
I
so too.
believe so. Teresita, we'll have to verify that, but I'm thinking that you can. I'm wondering if it might be something that we might need to map a drive so that you can get to it. But I know with the QuickBooks Desktop, it exports a file, excuse me, to the server. And I know there are people that will map a drive to the server to be able to grab that file more easily rather than because you don't have the access to the server when you're from the cloud. Um, but we'll check into that. Okay, so with this export, all of these all of this activity is flowing through what we call the posting code, and it's by how the posting code is set up that it determines what these account numbers should be for the different types of activity. Off your back office and then in posting codes, I'm going to go to my merchandise sales, and this is the posting code that is attached to those red gloves that I sold. It hit the sales income from this account. And by having my inventory account filled in and my purchases account filled in, that's how it knew what accounts to take the cost out of when that item was sold. Taking that a step further, the pair of gloves isn't a good example for this, but say it was an air filter that you had used internally to repair your equipment, but that same air filter could be sold to a customer when you repaired their equipment. In that case, your inventory account is still credited, but if it's sold to the customer, it uses this account as the cost of goods account. And if it's used internally, it looks to my work order expense account to use that account. And if you don't want the system to calculate the cost of goods, say when you buy your parts, you just expense everything right away, you don't carry it as an asset of your business, then you just leave the inventory account blank and the purchases account blank, and it will not calculate the cost of goods at that time. Going to take that one step further too. In your store manager and under the back office, include COGS inventory. If you never want the system to include those in your export, you can uncheck that also. Okay, moving on to reports. Within the reports in FocalPoint, cash reporting is one I'm sure all of you are familiar with. Um, the, this report shows I had the one cash payment today for the 524. I had my one Visa payment for the 217.20. And if I come back here and look at my preview, they both flow into my cash and bank account. So the 222.44 agrees with my total in the drawer of 222.44. Another report to look at is your daily revenue. This is very similar to what you see in the revenue export. It's by your posting codes, the revenue amount, the receipts amount, inventory, cost of goods if that applied, and then also if I'd hit any repairs, expense, warranty, or gift cards. Another report that can come in handy is this invoices to AR. If you wanted to see what changes happened to your accounts receivable balance for a date or a date range, this will show you the orders that were sent over to accounts receivable for that date range. Invoice breakdown. This report shows the invoices that were closed for that date range, the date, the zip code that they were in, how much was rental, rental sales, sales, damage waiver, delivery pickup, meter, fuel, on down through for all the breakouts, along with the total and the amount paid by customer, and then an overall total. Coming back up, the AR post by date. I'm going to go back. I didn't have any of this on today. This AR post by date report is going to show debit adjustments, finance charges, credit adjustments, and AR payment batches. So a good place, debit and credit adjustments and your finance charges are ones that show up on this AR post by date report. And going down to another one with our revenue transactions. This gives you a breakout of what makes up the posting codes. So as you can see on this one, I've got sales tax collected. It shows the 2 transactions that had sales tax, the 1 transaction that went to AR. This is similar to the data dump. It breaks it down by your posting code. So if you were looking to see where something, why a posting code was touched with the revenue export, the revenue transactions could give you a quick look at that also. Shows what things posted to each. And if you were wondering about just one postcode, you could pick just that individual one. And I'm thinking all of you are familiar with this too, but the reports with the data dump, that can be another tool for having the information in a spreadsheet format and being able to sort in an order, a different order, or in narrowing down the details. Not all the reports have data dumps, but quite a few of them do.
I also like to add to in the data dump options for some of these reports. Sometimes there's more columns listed in the data dump than on the preview of the report, just because of spacing issue. And also too, if there's any columns you'd like to see added to a data dump on a report, go ahead, give support a call and let them know, and we can throw that on as an enhancement request too.
Yep. Thanks, Chad. That was a good addition. Okay, one more that's a big one for all of us is the sales tax. And now the sales tax report, I'm going to point out there is this cash basis note or box here. If you check the cash basis, the transactions that show on this report are going to be those transactions that are paid in full and have been, or that are closed and paid in full. So if you have a payment on an open transaction, it won't show on this sales tax report. It's only going to be completed transactions and paid in full. With the sales tax report, it will sort it by state, by county, and then by city, or further breakdowns if you have them. I didn't summarize the report, so I see both of the transactions that were closed today. the taxable amount, the non-taxable amount, the amount that was tax exempt, the tax that was due, and then the gross amount of that one. It will total it up by county and total it up by state. So if you have a number of cities within a county, it will list each individual city and then give you a total for the county. And then if you have a number of counties in a state, it will total it up for the state after that, along with giving you a grand total at the end that would total up if you had multiple states. This is the report I see most often used for sales tax. There are a couple different ways to do sales tax, whether it's based on each individual line or whether it's based on the order as a whole. If it's based on the order as a whole, you really should use the sales tax as a whole report to be most accurate. And as you can see, my system isn't set up. My system is set up as standard, so it's warning me that I should use the other report. But I could still run it if I needed to. I'm going to skip down to the sales tax detail. The one additional thing that the sales tax detail report gives you is that it lets you break your sales tax out by individual types. You can see the various. So if I wanted to see how much the tax on just damage waiver, I can preview that to see that on my one order, my damage waiver is taxable. Customer type was entertainment. There's my amount that was charged on the damage waiver, and I had $1.26 in tax on damage waiver. But you can show all this way too. And then it breaks down each individual line on the orders for that day or date range, shows whether taxable or non-taxable, non-taxable or taxable, and your totals. Any questions on reporting?
No questions.
Okay. So then the next area I want to look at, in my example, everything was in balance, so we didn't really need to dig in if something was out of balance. But there are a couple places you can go if you get that your revenue export is out of balance. Um, some of the errors in revenue export might lead you towards where the problem is. Say it comes up and says missing account number. That's going to be something in the posting code doesn't have an account number where it needs it. Things like that. But as far as out of balance, if we start with off our control center, we have a reset balance option. And what this reset balance does, it just goes through and looks at each order, looks at where things are, and makes sure that they're posting where they should be. So rarely do you see any errors within just resetting, but if you do, it's a hint that this is where the problem might be. Along with resetting the cash drawer, same thing, it ended successfully. Resetting my AR balances, ended successfully. Checking order balance is where we often would find that something might not be right. And like here, it went through and checked the orders, 2 good, 0 bad. If it did find that something wasn't right with an order, it would list the order number and give you a little bit more information on it. But the main key there would be identifying what order number is out of balance. I'm trying to think. It's something that we have trouble duplicating, so we can make it not happen. But I know not too long ago, we had an order where on a merchandise item, 2 went out, but 4 came back in. So it was trying to put a negative number on the order. And when we try to do that, we can't figure out how the system allowed it to happen, but that's what had happened. But this check order balance was what identified the order as something that wasn't right. And we were able to then track back and fix the issue. But checking the order balance could be one way to identify an issue. Another one is your check AR balance. Same thing, it just goes through if there was an issue here, it would pop out and list a customer name or an order number or something that would give you a hint as to where the problem is. The next one, off our back office, we've got this age trial balance function. And when I calculate this balance, the main thing you want to see is a 0 for everything under the difference. The one side is calculating what it should be or what it sees, and then what it should be to see the differences. The main one, and actually I don't know if I've ever seen anything other than this, but this plus balance forward entries. A balance forward entry is one that it's just entered in to adjust the accounts receivable, but it doesn't go to QuickBooks or doesn't go to your accounting. And if there is a difference here, two things. It would have come from create customer balances. And thinking back to when you went live, that's how any open AR balances would have been created on your system to set up your age trial balance when you started live on FocalPoint. The design of creating customer balances is that they don't affect your accounting because that number's already hit your financials. So basically, this is one that should never be used because you always want to adjust your accounting. But if someone does go in there and do something, this is one way to identify it, that you would see there was a balance forward entry. There is also off our reports, there is a balance forward entry report. I don't know if I've done any this year or not, but yes, I have. I've been in here playing quite a bit. But this would identify the customer and the details of what balance forward entries had been entered. And there again, this would be a starting point to say, okay, why was this balance forward entered? What should we do about it? How should we fix it? But there shouldn't be any balance forward entries within the system. And more than that, it's one to give us a call and let us help you find where the problem is or what might be going on. Any questions?
No questions in the
Okay.
chat.
Okay. So then the next thing I'm going to touch on is the automated reports that can be set up within FocalPoint. And these would be set up on your server and in your server manager. Off processes, and then in exports. You can see I've got a number of reports set up. I'm just going to go into the age trial balance first of all. I've got my age trial balance set to print daily, every day, or I could say every weekday or every so many days. And I have the output going to PDF as an email to my email address. And the options at the bottom here are the same as if you had run the age trial balance yourself. And I guess I didn't look at that when we were looking at reports. That's another one of the reports that is a good one to review. Age trial balance. I'm gonna flip down here. So, for example, okay, here's a good one. Richter in current 31 to 60 shows the details, and then it lists each individual transaction below that. If I didn't want to see all the details, I could do a summary, and then I just get one line per customer. And if I did want to see just an overall total, I could do that too. So back here, this can be set up, and like I say, I've got it set up as a PDF. You could have it print to a printer. You could have it go to a file, a PDF file, dumped it to a spreadsheet in 3 different formats. With these that are dumped to a file or the PDF file, those would be going to a folder on your server. So if I go to my C drive and then in FocalPoint, and I think, is it here? Yep. So documents and export. I can see that last night at 8 p.m., I got my merchandise work in progress for store 2 or store 1. I got a rental valuation report for store 1, another one for store 2. And I must have inventory valuation. So I have my merchandise for store 2 and for store 1. So I have those reports set up to run what's set to every night. I also have, no, I don't. You could also, like with this age trial balance, it's set to run every day. My rental valuation, I could say I want it to run monthly. And then I determine, I could say I want it to run on the last day of every month. So with these reports, we recommend that you do have the inventory valuation set up to run regularly, your rental valuation set up to run regularly, the merchandise work in progress. We could run that as often as you want. Age trial balance is another good one to run at the end of every month, or once a week, whatever works for your bookkeeper. With the reports, it can be set up. You can set up reports to regularly run for the customer's last rented, insurance expiration, invoice breakdown, open credits by customers, open orders by customer. Under rental, you have quite a few again: merchandise, service department, purchase orders, daily reports. So you could have the system automatically print that cash reporting at the end of every day. Management reports, and then financials. Age trial balance. And I should point out too, with setting these up, you can determine what is the start of day before open or end of day. It's normally set at start of day is midnight, before you open is 6 a.m., and at the end of day is 8 p.m., but you can adjust those times as needed. With the automated reports, if you are questioning if you have them set up, or if you want them set up, want help setting up, email to support and we can help you get those set up. So that's support@vism-corp.com. Questions on the automated reports?
Hey, Kathy, can you set those automated reports by store?
Yes. When,
Like the service, specifically like the service report?
so let's look at here. When you set it up, if you have the option to run the report by store, then you'd be able to select. And I would recommend updating your note here to say which store.
Gotcha. And then one other question we had, why do you recommend that you run the inventory valuation on a monthly basis?
Well, it's just a good, we often get questions. Say today we would get a question saying, my inventory is $100,000 off, but you've never run it before. So by having it run at a regular basis, it will be easier to help identify what might have caused it to go out of balance. And if you are running it, reviewing it on a regular basis, that just helps keep your financials in balance.
Taxes. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? And if not, I have one more thing I want to look at, and then I'll see if you have any other questions. And we're not going to touch on this one too much, but to make you aware, with one of the updates in the last few months, off our inventory, we added this merchandise reconciliation program. And with this, I can see what my starting inventory was for today. I had no purchase orders. I did sell merchandise of $3.45. And my actual ending inventory shows this, along with how many active merchandise items I have. I have the tracking turned off on 27 items. So that means that I don't want to keep track of how many I have on hand or what the cost of those items are. And for things like fuel, that often makes sense that you don't keep track of how much fuel you have on hand. You know the tank and you know when it's getting empty. But this could be something too, that if something is marked incorrectly, that could be one reason your inventory is out of balance. And then it does show how many are turned on. We do have a few enhancements coming to this area in the near future that would allow you to do things like click a button here to see which items it's turned off on to make sure that those are the items you don't want to track. And we're going to be enhancing this a little bit more, but this is a good starting point on keeping track of reconciling your merchandise totals. And I think that's all I have for you. Any other questions or anything you'd like to look at?
And again, you could post a question in the chat or unmute your mic and just ask away.
Okay, if no more questions, thank you again for joining us today. And if you do have questions that come up as you go along, let us know.
Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you.